Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't matter whether
Right
they're
here, no.
Israelite or not.
Yes, it does
matter
matter.
in the Old Testament, I believe that, but then you forget that Jesus died.
Okay, I got you. This is the book of John, chapter 4, and verse 22. All right, it says, ye worship, ye know not. You worship, you think you worshiping the Lord, you don't know who you worship. It's the Lord. Red letter, right? Ye worship, ye know not. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Who are the Jews?
Well,
the so-called blacks are the Negroes, Haitians, and Jamaicans. Those are the Jews.
You're blinded by race, man.
No. This is about race. This is about bloodline. This is about whose seed go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yes, but then he went to
He didn't go to the Gentiles.
Yes.
This is the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 1. James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. All praise, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught me this truth. And peace, love, and blessings to the hopeful elect. I'm the brother Yakal from Prophets in Babylon, Sarasota, which is the branch of the Prophets in Babylon Tampa Church. Shalom to those brothers. And what I want to get into today or tonight, is just going a little bit into the history of, the Gentiles and, how we became Gentiles, you know what I'm saying? Because you have a lot of confusion, a lot of times when you go out there to the highways and byways, when brothers go out, you tend to deal, with scoffers like this, man, which, this guy right here, him and his whole family came up against us last week at camp, and their whole argument was the Bible is a book of love, and it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a heathen or whether you're or whether you're of Israel. If you accept Jesus Christ into your heart, then you can be saved. Which that's not biblical. That's not scriptural. These words are, these scriptures, the salvation is only for, the Jews, the Israelites, all right, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, okay, the 12 tribes of Israel, that's who salvation is for, so we're going to clear up some of that confusion, you know what I'm saying, and now I'm going to go into it. James 1 and 1, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So these words were only for the 12 tribes. But then they'll say, well, what about Paul? Paul was sent unto the Gentiles. You're right. Paul was sent unto the Gentiles. But you have to realize who the Gentiles were. All right. And we're going to grab that real quick. This is the book of Acts, chapter 9, beginning at verse beginning at 15. It says, but the Lord said unto him, go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. So this is also obviously talking about Paul. It says, for I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake. So Paul was a chosen vessel unto Yahushua to declare his name amongst the Gentiles. One reason is that Paul can speak Greek and he can speak Hebrew, right? So when you go into that word Gentile in the Greek is ethnos. And it says a race, a nation. Okay, the nations as distinct from Israel. It says a race, a people, nations, the nations, heathen world, Gentiles, right? But you go down, it says ethnos, from etho, It says forming a custom or a culture. Properly people joined by practicing similar customs or common culture, usually referring to the unbelieving Gentiles, and it goes on to say non-Jews. But you have to realize, this is talking about the Jews, because it says right here, properly people joined by practicing similar customs. And now what you want to do from there is go to the word Hellenism, right? And it says devotion to or imitation of ancient Greek thought, customs, or styles. So we were made Gentiles, going back to the Grecian captivity. We were forced to keep Greek customs, and a lot of us fell from the way. So Paul on the scene was used to bring back those that some forgot, some knew, but for the most part Paul was set up to go out there and declare the name of the Lord amongst the Gentiles, which were Israelites and the heathen state of mind, basically like us today. We will be considered Gentiles because we were brought up keeping heathen custom. We were brought up keeping Christmas. We were brought up celebrating New Year's and Valentine's Day. Well, it was the same thing with them back then. So yeah, we were Hellenized, man. And that's what people fail to realize, is that they think it's talking about Gentiles as in the heathen, but it's really talking about Gentile as in Israelites keeping heathen customs. And right here I got another definition of Hellenized, and it says Hellenism is the adoption of Greek culture, religion, language, and identity by non-Greeks. And that was us. For the most part, you had many heathens keeping it, but for the most part, it's dealing with the Israelites. And right here it says, another definition of Hellenist, it says a person living in Hellenistic times who was Greek in language, outlook, and way of life, but was not Greek in ancestry, right? Especially an Hellenized Jew. You see? A Hellenized Jew, man. Why? Because, when you go back into the time, of Alexander, after him, they began to push laws that all should become Greek. You look that up, it says traditionally Hellenistic Judaism was a designation for Judaism, or the Jews, in Greek-speaking world, including those Jews who spoke Greek and adopted to some extent a Greek way of life. It has been argued, however, that all Judaism after the conquest of Alexander was Hellenistic Judaism. So after Alexander, they began to push those laws that all should become Greek. And you can read that in the book of First Maccabees, and I'll grab it right quick. And that's what you Christians don't know, because you don't study the scriptures. You don't study to show yourself approved. Now some do study, but ultimately they can't get over that hump. They can't get over the hump, the emotional hump, that salvation is not for everybody. I'm gonna begin right here. First Maccabees chapter 1, beginning at verse 41, and it reads, "Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed to the agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yeah, here you go. Many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Shabbat." So we just did that. We just read it. How when you go into that word heathen, Hellenist or Hellenized, it says the adoption of Greek culture, religion, language, and identity by non-Greeks. Now going back to this, it reads, "Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Shabbat. For the king has sent letters by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land." You see? So basically, they were making them be Greek, and Jake was getting put to death if they were not keeping Greek customs. And once again, going back up, you had many Israelites that consented to just bow down to the ways of the Greeks. Antiochus came out with that law. And it says, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Shabbats and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, and set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they shall also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable to all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. So that's what happened to our people. Ultimately, over time, majority of them, a lot of them fell away from, they fell away from knowing that they were Israelites. Some knew they were Israelites, some forgot, right? It says, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, should die. So this is what happened unto the Israelites. So in the time of Paul, this is what was going on. This is what was going on, man. You had Israelites that didn't know they were Israelites, and that were Greeks that was keeping Greek customs, and this who Paul was sent to. But the gospel never changed. The gospel never changed, man. It's always been about, the Israelites. All right. It's always been about the Israelites. It's always going to be about the Israelites. Salvation, never changed, man. Salvation never changed. Salvation is always going to be of the Israelites. As it is written, all Israel shall be saved. Now we know there is a 1/3 and a 2/3, but that's according to here in America. So we know not all Israel are going to be saved on this side. But for the most part, all Israel will be in the kingdom of heaven. And I want to grab this right quick. This is the book of Romans, chapter 9 and verse 3. It says, for I could wish that myself were accursed from Hamashiach for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh. All right, it's not flesh, but flesh. My kinsmen, my brethren according to the flesh. What tribe did Paul come from? This is something that these Christians don't even know. They don't even know that Paul is an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. It says, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Yahweh and the promises. So going back right here, Romans 9 and verse 4, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Yahweh and the promises. Right, so the promises, what was the promise, man? The kingdom of heaven. The new, he said covenants, the new bodies. All right. The immortal flesh, that was promised to the Israelites. It wasn't promised to the heathen. It says, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Hamashiach came. All right. Whose are the father, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Yahweh came. All right. Who is over all, Yahweh blessed forever. Amen. Right. So guess what? We just proved right there that, hey, it says, to whom according to the flesh, Yahweh came. You right? But you heard him say in the video, oh, that's the Old Testament. Well, I just quoted from the New Testament. That's what Paul wrote. That Paul wrote the book of Romans. And I had brought out during the camp, I didn't get the clip, but I brought out St. John 4 and verse 22. And it reads, it says, ye worship ye know not, for we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. And that's right, man. Salvation is of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But at that time, majority in Northern Kingdom was over here in the Americas. Now you have some still over there, a little bit, but for the most part, a majority of them were over here in the Americas. Now, going to the Old Testament, St. Joel chapter 2 and verse 27, and it reads, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. And this is written, man, as it is written, the Lord word doesn't go out void. Malachi 3 and 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So the Lord doesn't change, man. It's always been about Israel, you know. For the Lord shall have mercy on Jacob, you know. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, beginning at verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and will set them, Salaki, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Right? Which the strangers here we know are the Israelite foreigners, which are also scattered abroad. But for the most part, the Lord said he will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. The Lord always cared about it. It's only about Israel, you know. And this is a punch to the gut, all right, that you heathens got to take, man. You know, you came up there and you came up there and you acted a straight fucking fool, you know, because in your spirit you know that this is true. You know that you ain't gonna receive salvation. And for the most part, you know, she was going into how the reason she really came up against us like that is because she was married to a goddamn Edomite, man. And let's say if she is an Israelite, our women are fucking traitors. You know, for the most part, the majority of them are going to be destroyed, and she's going to be destroyed. You know, her and her house, you know, for coming up against the word of the Lord like that. Right? And you see her son, for the most part, you know, he couldn't get over the fact that salvation, you know, was only for the Jews, man. The, you know, Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. You know, so this is the gospel of the kingdom of heaven. And when you go into that word gospel, you know, let's get that real quick. That's Matthew 24 and verse, let's get in the blue letter. You know what I'm saying? Let's grab that real quick. This gospel. Matthew chapter 24, beginning at 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Right? So gospel. This gospel shall be preached unto all the world.
Strong's G 2098, Euangelion. Euangelion.
It says Euangelion. And it says, a reward for good tidings, the glad tidings of the kingdom of Yahweh soon to be set up, and subsequently also of Yahweh Shah the Messiah, the founder of this kingdom. You see? So yeah, man. You know, the good news, it's good news, the good tidings, you know, of the kingdom of heaven. Now, who was good tidings being preached unto? You know? And we're going to close out with this. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, in verse 1. It says, the Spirit of the Lord Yahweh is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. You know, so hold on. Isaiah was preaching the gospel, right? Going back to verse 1, it says, the Spirit of the Lord Yahweh is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings. The Lord hath anointed Isaiah to preach the gospel. It says, unto the meek, he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. Who are the captives? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And the opening of the prisons to them that are bound. To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our power, to comfort all that mourn. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. Let's get that definition for Zion. You know, it says,
Strong's H 6726, Sion.
Which we know that word is Tazion, you know. But it says, another name for Jerusalem, especially in the prophetic books, right? Was Jerusalem as the people before us a place, so this is going to Israel. To give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they may be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. Salakia. So right, man, the gospel of the kingdom of heaven is only for the Israelites, not the heathen. Okay, not the so-called white man, not the Chinese man, not the Japanese man. All right, not the East Indian, nor the Indian. You know, Salakia, nor the Arabics. All right, but the Israelites, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, man. All right. So Lord willing, this is edifying. I'm going to close out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, great millstone that taught me this truth. Until the next time I do say shalom.